Imagine a scar on the landscape. And I don't mean a small one, I mean a massive, jagged line of concrete and steel that runs for over 600 kilometers.
It's an incredible distance to even think about.
Mhm.
It starts all the way up near the Netherlands, winds down the entire border with France.
And stops only when it hits the Swiss frontier. We're talking about the West Wall, or as most of us know it from history, the Siegfried Line.
And it's so important to get the scale right from the beginning. It's easy to just say a wall, but that's not what it was. This was a deep, layered defense system.
Right.
We're talking over 18,000 bunkers, tunnels, countless tank traps. It's a physical monument to a certain type of military thinking. This idea of static defense.
The immovable object.
Exactly. The belief that you could actually build something to stop an irresistible force.
And that's really what we're going to unpack today. We want to look at this thing, its architecture, its strategy, and ultimately its collapse. Because the Siegfried Line is just full of contradictions.
It absolutely is.
It was built for propaganda almost as much as for actual war. Then it was completely neglected, left to rot, really. And then at the very end, it was desperately reactivated to try and stop the Allied advance.
It's a fascinating story. You have this icon of supposed invincibility that becomes a symbol of pure desperation.
Yeah.
But before we dig into the strategy, we have to talk about the physical reality of it. I mean, just the logistics. Pouring that much concrete is mind-boggling.
Absolutely. And just a quick note before we get into the nuts and bolts of how this thing was built. If you are enjoying this video, please watch it until the end. This greatly helps the channel and encourages us to continue our work.
Okay, so let's start in 1936. That's when this all kicks off.
Yeah.
Germany begins these huge construction programs. There was the Limes program.
Which is a very revealing name, right?
Absolutely.
Harking back to the Roman frontier.
Totally. A statement of intent. And then you had the Aachener program. The real goal was to intimidate, to secure that western border so they could focus elsewhere.
And the engine driving all of this was?
Organization Todt.
Right. Headed by Fritz Todt, the engineer.
And this wasn't just, some army engineering corps. It was a massive state-run construction conglomerate. They mobilized the entire German building sector.
So private companies, foreign workers.
Foreign workers, and later, prisoners of war, all coordinated to create this one continuous barrier. The amount of planning required to get cement, steel, and wood to these really remote border areas was immense.
And when people picture the Siegfried Line, they usually picture one thing, the dragon's teeth.
The Hookerlinie, yeah. They are iconic, these rows of reinforced concrete pyramids just jutting out of the earth, usually in rows of 4, maybe 5, and they were designed to get taller from front to back.
They look like they're meant to just stop a tank cold. But the tactical purpose was a little more subtle than that, wasn't
It was much more subtle.
Yeah.
The idea wasn't necessarily to permanently destroy the tank on the line of teeth itself. It was about controlling its movement.
To channel it.
To channel it, exactly. If a tank tries to drive over them, its belly gets caught on the concrete, and the tracks just spin in the air. It's stuck. So it forces the tanks to look for a gap.
And that gap is right where you want them.
That gap is the killing zone. You funnel them right into the pre-sighted fields of fire for your anti-tank guns. It's all about making the enemy go where you want them to go.
But the teeth were just the welcome mat. The real strength of the line was in the bunkers. And
Yeah.
we're not talking about, a simple concrete box.
No, not at all. You had things like the Type 10 bunkers, but to really understand the complexity, you have to look at something like the Besseringen B-work.
What made that so special?
Well, a B-work just refers to a certain thickness of concrete. We're talking walls and ceilings 1.5 meters thick.
Yeah.
But it was what was inside. This thing was a subterranean fortress.
So basically self-sufficient.
It was designed to be. It had its own generators for power. It had these complex air filtration systems because the fear of poison gas was still very, very real.
It would have its own water, communications, everything it needed to operate, completely cut off from the outside world.
That was the idea, yes. The Prue could survive a massive artillery barrage, wait it out in relative safety, and then come up to man the guns when the infantry attack began. It was, for its time, a marvel of defensive engineering. But
There's always a but.
there's always a but. By the time they were actually needed, the whole nature of warfare had changed.
And that really brings us to the next phase here, the shift in strategy. In the late 30s, this line was a massive propaganda tool. It was a message to France and Britain. Don't even think about it.
And for a while it worked. It kept the West quiet while Hitler was looking east. Then you get the phony war period.
Where the British troops were singing, "We're going to hang out the washing on the Siegfried Line."
It was seen as a bit of a joke because nothing was happening. Then, of course, France falls in 1940, and suddenly the Germans themselves are looking at this giant wall and thinking,
Well, what do we do with this now?
exactly. And the great irony is they decided they didn't need it. From 1940 to around 1943, the Siegfried Line was just neglected. It was officially obsolete.
They started pulling the weapons out?
They stripped the weapons for other fronts. The bunkers were used for storage, for potatoes, for farm equipment. The barbed wire rusted away. It became a ghost line.
Until the tide starts to turn, November 1943, and we see Directive 51.
Ah, yes. Directive 51 is the moment of realization in Berlin. Hitler understands an invasion in the West isn't a possibility anymore, it's an inevitability. The two-front war nightmare is here.
And that forgotten, rusted line of concrete suddenly becomes the last line of defense.
It becomes the last hope. So you see this frantic scramble in late 1944. There are these urgent orders, August 24th, September 1st, all about putting the West Wall in a state of defense.
It's a panic.
A total panic. You can read it in the language of the orders. They're saying, get everything working again now. But the problem was they didn't have the troops. The best men were gone. So what do you call up?
The civilian population. The Volkssturm.
Old men and young boys from the Hitler Youth. They were sent out with shovels to dig new anti-tank ditches in front of these crumbling 20-year-old bunkers.
And the command structure was a complete mess. You had the army trying to organize the defense, but then the local party leaders, the Gauleiters, were put in charge of the construction.
It was chaos.
Yeah.
The military had to go, cap in hand, to these local political bosses to ask for laborers. It was an administrative nightmare unfolding during a total military collapse.
And yet, despite all that, the neglect, the chaos, when the Allies actually reached the line in September 1944, it wasn't the walkover they might have expected.
No, it wasn't. And this is where we get to the grim reality of combat there, especially in places like the Hürtgen Forest. The line became a formidable obstacle again, not because of its brilliant design, but because of the terrain and just the sheer desperation of the defenders.
The hold at all costs mentality had set in.
It was incredibly brutal. The orders were explicit. There's a directive that says something like, the Siegfried Line is a line that must be held at all costs. Only dying is possible there.
And another one, cowardice and softness are to be countered with the harshest means.
They were threatening their own troops. But there's a tactical reality here that often gets lost. We have this image of soldiers fighting from inside these cozy, safe bunkers. By 1944, that was often a death sentence.
Because the bunker was just a giant target.
It was a magnet for artillery and bombers. The Allies had total air superiority. So the German tactic had to adapt. The bunker was for storage, for shelter during the bombardment. But the moment the shells stopped,
The crews had to get out.
they were ordered out. They had to scramble into nearby trenches and foxholes with their machine guns and Panzerfaust to actually fight. The bunker was the base, not the fighting position.
Which helps explain the absolute carnage in places like the Hürtgen Forest. It was just a meat grinder of dense woods, mines, mud, and these hidden overgrown bunkers.
For the poor guy on the ground, the myth of the fortress was gone. He wasn't safe inside. He was just trapped in a killing zone.
Eventually, of course, the line does break. The Allies punch through at Aachen and in the Scheldt, which is when General Patton made his famous comment.
Fixed fortifications are monuments to man's stupidity.
A very Patton-esque thing to say. But he had a point. In the age of mobile warfare and air power, a static line just can't hold forever.
So the line is breached. The war is nearly over. And that leads to the final, darkest chapter of this whole story. The scorched earth policy.
March 1945. The order for demolitions on Reich territory. It's often called the Nero Decree. And it's basically an order for national suicide.
He ordered the destruction of everything, not just military assets.
Everything. Transport, communications, factories, food supplies. The logic was that the enemy should find nothing but scorched earth.
That's a chilling kind of logic.
It's completely twisted. The belief was that the German people had failed by losing the war, and therefore didn't deserve to have the means to survive. The infrastructure should be destroyed so the victors couldn't use it.
So the wall built to protect the nation ends with an order to destroy the nation itself.
It's the ultimate failure of that entire strategic vision. The wall couldn't stop the enemy, so the leadership decided to destroy everything behind it.
So what happened to the line after the war?
Well, a lot of it was demolished. The Allies used tons of explosives to blow up the bunkers. But you can't just erase millions of tons of concrete from the landscape. It's too big.
And that leads to the most surprising, postscript to this entire story.
The ecological legacy. It's absolutely fascinating. Where the ruins of the Siegfried Line stand today, you can't farm, you can't build on it, so the land was just left alone.
It became an accidental nature preserve.
Exactly. It's now called the Green Belt. A chain of biotopes has sprung up along the old line. You have rare plants, animals, bats live in the old, dark bunkers. Nature has reclaimed it.
So it's no longer a monument to military strategy, or even to stupidity, as Patton said. It's become something else entirely.
It's a scar, but a healing one. A scar that evolved from a weapon of intimidation to a place of pointless sacrifice, and now, finally, to a sanctuary for wildlife. It's a powerful reminder that history leaves these deep, physical marks on the world.
A wall built to divide people, now connecting a unique ecosystem. A strange but peaceful end to the story.
It certainly is. If viewers enjoyed the video, they can subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell to be notified about new videos, click the like button, and share the video with their colleagues, as this helps us maintain the channel. Thank you.